The Texas celebration is very much over at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, and now the real work can begin for Ohio State. Welcome to Snap Judgments on a Tuesday at the Woody. He is Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. The Austin Birm Show is coming at your way for Grambling Week.
Yes.
And there is
no Grambling sign on the wall behind us.
It's about Ohio State.
Yeah, this is about Ohio State. This is about us. It's not about anybody else. And I thought Ryan Day's tenor, as we get started with this episode of Snap Judgments, was correct today. It was very serious, we celebrated. Now it's time to get to work. We have a lot to fix there. And it's funny, of course, he doesn't really go into specifics of what needs to be fixed.
He did a fair amount.
Say that they need to fix something on all three phases. I mean, which I agree with. I'm sure that they weren't as perfect as they wanted to be. But from the outside looking in, it was a pretty clean game. Like I said, two penalties, no turnovers, no almost catastrophic types of plays on offense, except for I guess maybe one. They got bailed out with the Texas hands to the face penalty. But it's just a situation where that's now the approach you have to take if you're Ohio State. You've got Gramling, you've got Ohio, you've got a week off. These next 3 weeks, I think it could be argued, are probably more important than the last 3 weeks as far as what this team is going to be.
Yeah, I think we mentioned a week ago at this time that it was a very serious, very locked-in version of Ryan Day to get ready for Texas because everyone was aware of the stakes for those games. But just getting through that and getting the win that he talked, and they spent so much time throughout the month of August and really before that getting ready for it, it's not a deep breath. It's not decompressing and exhaling for Ohio State. It's okay, that one's done. And as we said, win or lose, that was going to be a singular goal. The Buckeyes checked that one off their list. It's done. It's in the bank. But now you're building for something new. And he said the list is a mile long. He didn't read everything on that list, but there was a lot of conversation, Berm, about being able to push the football down the field,
to be more explosive
on offense, to get into maybe more perimeter-based running game, which Texas was designed to negate. So those are sort of the 3 or 4 things that came up a lot. And I understand that the game plan had to be specific to getting through Texas. That's why when we left on Saturday, I had no real concerns about it. That's not going to be the approach. Ohio State can build and install whatever it wants the next 2 weeks and do whatever it wants during the off week to prepare for Washington. He did not go as far as calling this a training camp. That's sort of what I'd been hypothesizing about the way Ohio State would manage the rotation, get through practices.
Training camp part 2.
Yeah, and really the real training camp, because I think everything in August was so focused on Texas. But he talked about those things and said there's a ton of corrections to make, but there always will be coming out of week 1. I think they come out of it in an elevated state. But your coach then has to bring you back down to life and say, here's the fundamentals, here's the things that didn't go well, execution, corrections, that's all available for them. And it has to be that way for Ohio State because they don't have an opponent on Saturday that's going to demand a ton of their attention.
No, but, and we've seen in the past when Ohio State has these sorts of games after a big early season game where maybe things didn't go right. The run game on offense especially is one area where I think people are going to look at the statistical output. They're going to see the average yards per carry. They're going to see the run game just going between the tackles the entire game and go, what was that? And I don't know that you're going to feel, if you're somebody who is super skeptical of the run game after week 1, I don't think anything that happens over the next 2 weeks is going to make you feel way better about it. But we have seen in the past, we can go back to 2015 when the offense was very disjointed in the early part of the season, and then throughout the entire season, was that you can certainly feel worse about things after in these upcoming games. And so if Ohio State doesn't fix those issues, if Ohio State doesn't go out and establish itself as a dominant run game on Saturday against a subpar opponent like Gramling State, then the antenna go up even further. And then you got Ohio, who battled pretty close with Rutgers, and you think, well, that team's going to be a little bit better, but there's not going to be anything that happens in those games where Buckeyes fans are going to be like, yes, we're good, we're clear, we have no concerns. But
the only reason you would is if your starters have to play more than 2 quarters of this game.
Yeah, and you certainly hope that's not the case. So this week is about cleaning things up for Ohio State. It's about making sure that when you go out there against Gramling State on Saturday, that this game really needs to be over by the end of the first quarter. It doesn't, it's not a situation where you're going to feel good about anything if Gramling State is, piling up first downs on you in the first quarter and you're like, oh, this is weird, because you're maybe going to come off of that Texas, as you said, the hangover. a little bit like, we can't be beat, and you can be beat. Probably not against Gramling State, but that game on Saturday was not something where you could circle every facet of the Ohio State program and say, well, that's fixed. There's no problem there. This can't come back and bite you, because there were a lot of little things that could come back and bite you, whether it's November 1st against Penn State, whether it's at Washington, whether it's at Wisconsin or Illinois. Like, you're going to have to play better football across the board.
And they will. I mean, I'd be surprised if it's not a guarantee, but every team goes into week one. Half of them win.
What year was that Tulsa game, when it was the week 2 or 3 game? You're like, yeah, this is weird.
That was the difficult C.J. Stroud game.
Yeah.
That then he missed the Akron game the following week, right?
Yeah, that was after the Oregon game, the big game. So, like, you look at it and you go, well, let's just not allow regression.
Yeah, well, but I think that's why I'm looking at this as the true start of a build, because when you look at how overall little Ohio State rotated against Texas, it was like, here are the veterans, here are the people that are going to be trusted, this spot, like, there was no rotation whatsoever in the secondary. They let those guys go play, and you can find some spots. A bunch of tight ends played. Both C.J. Donaldson and James Peoples played at running back. It wasn't as if they just picked 22 guys and rolled through that, but it also wasn't, they didn't go to play 85 of them the way that they might on Saturday against Gramling. So I feel like this is the true start. And when you were talking about Texas being the Super Bowl at the start of the year, that part is over. There are things that you learn from that, and you're going to carry that forward. But in 3 weeks' time, Ohio State's going to look very different, and the amount of depth that it can lean on is going to look very different. And that is going to be involved, like, later on in this practice field today. Team meetings at 2:30 on Tuesday. They're going to go out there. They're going to have another physical practice, and there's going to be a lot more guys, I think, taking more reps on a practice like today and tomorrow, and then certainly on Saturday against Gramling. That's the plan, because now you're trying to add to that next wave. Ohio State got a good look at what it can do with the best on its roster, the top of the depth chart, and now it's going to supplement that and then find other ways to improve, like probably by expanding what it asked Julian Sayin to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ryan Day even talked about that they may have done that against Texas had there not been the early drops and things that maybe put the Ohio State offense in bad position, namely Texas and their punter and the work that he did. But it started with the first drive of the game for Ohio State and Julian Sayin's first pass of the season, where, like, you pick up a huge first down there, or a bigger play if he would have thrown it to Jeremiah Smith, because it probably would have been a touchdown. So, like, if that starts a little different, then it probably goes a little different for the rest of the game. And Ohio State didn't need to get to that point because it trusted its defense so much. But to your point, the defense, I think, is the one area. There's a lot more rotation on offense outside of wide receiver, which, again, we only saw the same 3 guys, which is not unexpected. I'm sure we'll see 4, 5, and 6 and probably 7, 8, 9 on Saturday against Gramling. But it was really the rotation in the secondary that I think was not, I'm not going to say confusing, because we don't have any right to know what the Buckeyes were thinking heading into that game, but it was surprising based on how things went in the spring and based on what we'd heard throughout the summer, which was that Aaron Scott didn't play, Bryce West didn't play,
Malik Hartford
didn't play. And so there's 3 pieces of that secondary that received a lot of hype and buzz over the last 4 months that didn't touch the field. Some of that, I think, is because Jalen McClain and Lorenzo Styles were awesome.
Also, Ryan Day talked about this, that they made a conscious effort, as they have really for the last couple of years, to try and shorten the game. And that plays into maybe some of the lack of downfield shots that they took on offense. And it was also like, okay, if you have an 8-minute drive to score a touchdown like they did in the second quarter, that's going to help this defense. It's going to help the starters be fresh. And they really were. I mean, they sealed that game with the starters not needing to take much of a breather. So that's encouraging. You can't do that every week, though. I think that's the point. Ohio State put all those chips in the middle of the table to beat Texas and put that on the resume to start the year. And now you're going to see a more traditional approach to early season ramp up. And it's just the way that the schedule worked out. There's nothing you can do about it, but you can make the most of it moving forward. And we're going to see those guys. Like,
you might not see 70% multiple tight ends on Saturday against Gramling State.
Probably won't.
You are going to see a lot of the guys that didn't play a lot on Saturday outside of special teams, and that starts, I think, with the secondary. But again, when guys are like playing the way that Jalen McClain were playing and that Lorenzo Styles Jr. was playing, it's hard to justify taking him off the field in a big game. I mean,
especially when it's a one-possession game,
right? And you know, we saw rotation at linebacker, but that was really part and parcel to Arvell Reese staying on the field and moving into a different role. It wasn't always like, well, Peyton Pierce is in the game, so we got to take Arvell or Sonny off. And there was some moments where Sonny was dealing with a little cramping and a little shoulder stinger, I think, after the almost interception that Peyton was out there. But this defense, we're going to see all kinds of things over the next couple months. So.
Yeah, you also referenced, Berm, the 4th and 1 throw from Julian Sayin there on the first offensive drive. And Ryan Day talked about that at length on Tuesday, that he had said before in the build-up to that question, the receivers have to help a little bit. He's talking about Max Clare in that conversation. There were 2 drops from Jeremiah Smith that were certainly out of character. Brandon Ennis had a chance to make a play. All those could have changed not only Julian Sayin's statistical line, but maybe what the play calling would have looked like. Yeah. Field position got way out of whack for Ohio State, being pinned down inside, starting from the 1, starting inside the 20. Nobody's making, excuses for it. It's just that's
part of the game. Texas did a great job putting the Buckeyes in that spot.
In that game, but he did say, because I think you mentioned on Snap Judgments as we left on Saturday, it's like Ryan Day having that conversation looked like he maybe was upset. And he was, no, that was Julian Sayin explained what he saw, that he thought that the safety was running towards the middle of the field, would have Jeremiah Smith in coverage or a chance to make a play. And so he worked to Max Clare and said, okay, that makes sense as a justification. Look at the iPad. Here's what you saw. Okay, I get that. So Ryan Day viewed that as a good thing. Not a good thing that the ball winds up on the ground and that the drive is over, but at least that the quarterback and the head coach and Billy Fessler and Brian Hartline can have that level of communications. That play is going to be a positive for them in the long run.
Yeah, and that's what you expect out of Julian Sayin. He's got a high football IQ. He's born to be a quarterback. That's what he's always done. It's what he's only done. So I don't think that I don't think that there's anything other than improvement coming for the entire offense. And certainly that's made easier when you don't have to play against Texas.
Yeah, they don't. They play Gramling at 3:30 in the Horseshoe. It's over there, Berm.
That's over there?
Yeah.
You should go. And here's a challenge to you, America. I want to say this because it's Tuesday now, and I'm still thinking about that atmosphere on Saturday, and it was electric. Let's put Gramling State in a position where they have to deal with that for a quarter at least. I think that people are going to be like, oh, well, the big games, it's easier to get up. And I get it. But the players and coaches, you help. You help.
You matter.
You matter. So get out there and get loud. Make that first quarter and a half miserable for Gramling State and let them, try to figure out a way to get out of there quickly.
Well, Liberty's going to be there, so you know that she'll be making some noise.
She'll be loud.
She's going to be fired up. There's no doubt about that.
We're going to be loud later this afternoon.
We are. You can stay tuned on 10TV, 10TV Plus, 97.1 The Fan, and any Apple, Spotify podcast platform later on. In addition to Snap Judgments, there will be the live show at Roosters, brought to you by Tansky Power Sports. That will be later on Tuesday. We will have Stonks. That's right. We have a game to break down. Going to get back into some fictional investments in Ohio State players. As we get ready.
They're only fictional for us.
Well,
not every state in America has outlawed the prop bet.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're absolutely right,
so
partner.
It can be profitable for others.
So still, full week of coverage as Ohio State makes their corrections here in week 2, getting ready for Gramling State Saturday in the Horseshoe. Can't wait for that. Thanks for joining us for some Snappy Jays on a Tuesday with Ryan Day. He's Berm. I'm Austin. We will talk to you later.